Thank you to the European Federation of Therapeutic Communities. You have a reputation that precedes you from across the miles. Phoenix Futures, bravo on your continued commitment to become carbon neutral. Everybody should be dedicated to that effort, personally and professionally. I'm also so impressed with the remarkable work Harbor House is starting, inclusive of women, children, and families. Absolutely essential. And thank you to Phoenix Futures for your hosting. I am Pamela J., and this is my good friend Anna and colleague. You'll be hearing from her in just a minute. I have been a TC practitioner for 5 decades, and I was encouraged to start by telling this story. When I was 17 years old, I attended Synanon as my university of choice, as I was seeking something so much more meaningful. That is where I met Naya Arbiter in 1970. We were just teenagers, and there in Northern California, we began over a decade adventure, gaining knowledge and understanding that has served us a lifetime. Naya used to say, well, we went to school through the stories of others, and we did. And we became incredible friends as our hearts beat to the same rhythm of wanting to make a difference in the whole world. Together, we created mystical moxie and strength undefeatable. During those good years at Synanon, we grew into our shared vision of social justice from the feminine perspective. When we departed, we lost touch for just a few years, and I soon joined Naya when she started Amity in 1981 to continue the work that we were so inspired by earlier. Tragically, Naya's ribbons to life untethered. It is my intention to continue working by her spiritual side, to fulfill her legacy and our vision. Our 50 years of enduring friendship was the most significant, spirited, inspiring, and profound in my life. And I am humbled and overcome with grief and gratitude. And I know she was so much more than an international treasure to everybody.
Good afternoon. I'm Anna Bond, and delighted to be here today. I'd like to take a minute or two to share my story, and that's just a snapshot of my life. Right there on the bottom, the second picture from the bottom, that's my brother and me. I was 5 years old in that picture. So my family and I, we migrated to the United States from Armenia. I was at the age of 5. Came to a country that was very foreign to me. I had to adapt to a culture and a language that I knew nothing about. So it was challenging, and I guess one of the biggest challenging part was that my parents still raised me in a Armenian traditional like family with customs and traditions that were only familiar to them, that they only knew of. So being a child and not speaking a word of English, having to go to a new school, meet people, and learn, learn to be with people I didn't understand was rather difficult, as you can imagine. So at home, my parents were very strict. My brother and I, we weren't allowed to speak English because my parents didn't want us to forget our homeland. They didn't want us to forget our customs and our culture. So my brother and I, we had to learn how to fit in at school, to be with people, make friends, and yet, still remain true to our beliefs and to our culture. So as you can imagine, growing up, I weathered many storms, but I was able to go to school, get a college education, and I got a career doing what I loved, and at one point even managing a big team of over 100 people, or leading a big team, not managing. So in my culture, the Armenian women, don't have a voice. So the man is the dominator, and the women is quiet. They're silent, and they just do what is expected of them. So as I was growing up, to me, you know, as you would imagine, this seemed normal. Seemed like it was the right thing to do. So it was not until I went to Amity Foundation and I, joined the circles with Pamela and Claudia and some of the others that I really learned that what I had to say mattered, that my voice was important, that I had a voice and I was free to use it, and that people were interested in what I had to say. So these women in these circles, as you'll hear us talk more about it. They truly helped me to build my confidence and to really inspire me. And every day, on a daily basis, these women continue to teach me and to inspire me.
So Naya named our circles Hamsa, which is, most of you probably know, the open hand is the oldest womankind symbol dating back to 4000 BC, representing health, inclusion, safe passage, and so much more. So, our challenges, which were some of the elements that inspired us to begin Hamsa circles, were these. And it's been said that we need an opposing wind to fly. So these are our opposing winds. Misogyny, as you know, the disdain, the degradation, the dismissal, the contempt for the feminine in man and woman, as women ingest misogyny also, has been tragically costly for the world, and also affecting the effectiveness of the therapeutic communities. For a lot of reasons, one of which, over the years, the humanistic feminine contributions have been demeaned and eventually have disappeared. Naya intuitively knew that when she started Amity in 1981, that it was imperative to ensure women, their voices and thoughts were heard, genuinely respected, and genuinely and equally valued, and that women's needs were met. As a result, the community got better for everyone. A lot of indicators of that, but one of the main one was that the retention went up for both men and women. Naya had the highest retention in the United States and possibly in the world at that time. We have grown tremendously. We ended up hiring about 500 new faculty over the last few years. Fantastic that we were reaching more people to serve, but there's been great a dilution of our culture and the community.
If you take a cup of tea and pour a gallon of water into it, you cannot even taste the tea or recognize it. Understanding community as method and the culture, as you all know, cannot readily be taught. It has to be experienced to be understood, valued, and respected.
And then, of course, COVID, we were unable to continue our in-person circles. And so we turned to Zoom, which we were able to be incredibly inclusive of all of our campus across 2,000 kilometers from California to Arizona, so including so many more women.
So the women are the culture carriers, and the culture is the heart and soul of Amity. So these are just some of our cultural values. So enrollment must be considered at ceremony. Banking character. So your value is not based on your education or degrees. It's what you have given to the community through the dignity of honorable actions. And traditions. Amity has traditions, all of which are essential components to a healthy and humanistic community. And the entire experience for faculty and students must be held and embraced with dignity. All the possible experiences of play, art, and music exposure are essential as part of our culture, and always ensuring that new student perspectives are heard. So, why women's circles? Circles are a place of sanctuary, and the foundation of Amity's success has always been built on circles, fostering holistic, whole person growth and transformation, creating the social environment for the world we need. And like I said, it's a place of sanctuary. It's for personal growth, and so it's a community building activity. It's where we learn from each other, build connections, and form friendships. So we also, as faculty, need to be part of our own evolution. And it's the women's work to preserve the culture and to develop a collective voice through the powerful friendships built. So when we reflect back to each other, our perspective of ourselves changes, and we begin to value our own thoughts, and we begin to value the thoughts of each other's, and so we become a source for each other through reflection, revelation, and reconnection. So amity means friendship, and friendship is the foundation of community. So here's I'm going to read a quote by China Galland, who wrote "The Bond Between Women." So fierce compassion is the transformation of anger into compassion. The divine feminine can rise up when the world is in danger. Help can come from the forgotten quarters, from what has been cast out, lost, rejected, and marginalized. And what we have cast out is what saves us and what becomes the cornerstone for the new foundation.
So first of all, thank you to Claudia Plepler and Regina Slaughter for partnering with me from the start of the Hamsa circles. We as a team with Naya just really carefully chose the participants, being very inclusive of everyone from all the sites, including administration, directors from residential, non-residential, the prisons, so we had about 21 women when we first started these 2 years ago between two static circles. Both circles were hosted 3 times a month for 3 hours each. We had about 6 to 8 women in each circle, and each week one of the women from the circle were exchanged being the host, took turns being the host, and they would prepare the format, which included a framework. It included questions for each one of the women, and then the circle would be opened, and we would always close with the ceremony of affirmations of each other, acknowledgments, and the promise. I promise what was said here will stay here, and I will honor the sanctuary of the circle. So the outcomes, absolutely phenomenal. Friendships were formed, deepened, strengthened, and we know that the degree of healthy relationships between the faculty has a direct effect on the quality of our services. You all know that. There's been a revolution of dignity where the women are having radical changes in their perspectives of themselves and each other. The Hamsa women participants themselves have, in their own campuses, reached out to other women and started their own circles. With the collective women's support, there has been a rise in confidence and courage, and the women are stepping up and speaking out. And of course, a more robust community culture is returning. Our logo is the Rainmaker, and Naya wrote this beautiful passage. When people gather with good intent, wind collects spirit clouds, and rain falls nourishing earth, and spring returns to all our relations. Through these Hamsa circles, spring has returned to all our relations.
Okay, and here are some of the voices from the women in the Hamsa circles.
When during the COVID time, we were isolated, we were alienated and not able to connect with one another.
For all of us to have a place where we can get to know each other, talk about things that we don't normally talk about, really listen to each other.
This circle is very empowering as a woman, as a faculty, as a human being. It has empowered me in more ways than one.
But I feel that the women that I sit in circle with are women who champion each other. And sometimes that includes telling each other some difficult truths and bringing some things to light that maybe we're not seeing very clearly.
And it takes all of us to get one of us to where we need to be. And that's very important to me because we stand on the shoulders of a lot of iconic women.
The Hamsa Circle has shaped me to be able to want to build personal relationships with women.
I grew up in a household where we weren't allowed to talk about our feelings.
I got back some validation that my feelings were valid, that my voice mattered, that I had the right to mourn.
There's a quote, I love it, when women don't speak up, they empower misogyny and they reinforce it in themselves and promote it.
Men, they just have this way of trying to shut you down and feel superior or getting their point across. And there's been many days that I wish I had my girlfriends around.
I didn't trust other women. The culture that I grew up in, both on the streets and the wider culture of American society, impressed upon me that women were not to be trusted. Women were in competition with me.
Been able to navigate through some of the things I feel that I know are not accepted by men or not validated by men.
It has benefited me in my life as a mother, as a daughter, as a sister.
Those kind of things happen where you feel snuffed out or silenced just because and dismissed because you're a woman.
And cultivating women friendships is the biggest part. I think that's one of the most detrimental effects of misogyny is that women mistrust each other and don't build friendships with each other. And, no one can understand me better than another woman.
It's really important to me, especially being in a position where the majority of the people I work with are men.
Entering a circle of women, even as a woman, there are fears because of misogyny, both external and internal. And the Hamsa Circle made me less afraid of women because they held me, they listened to me, they shared their stories, encouraged me to share mine.
I think that the way in which the therapeutic community has grown and embraced this idea of being a teaching and therapeutic community, I think that the Hamsa circles are really a testament to that.
As an African American woman, to share secrets, share anguish, share fear was something we were not raised with.
I think that I've grown to trust women, to develop authentic relationships and friendships that has actually empowered me to support one another.
I have more confidence when I speak to my family, to my friends, to my coworkers.
Being in the Hamsa circles has allowed me to be 100% myself.
Because I was nurtured, I was held up, and I was taken care of in this circle when I was grieving last year. And that helped me so much.
I really got to know some ladies in a very different way, where I wouldn't have never had that opportunity if we wouldn't have got together.
There's one thing I do know is that women are always, and most times, the glue holding it all together.
The part that, that you can join together to build the community.
And I honestly know I couldn't be where I'm at today if it wasn't for the women in my life.
And I've learned what other positive opinions other people have about me. And that's very valuable.
The result of that is when I travel to other campuses, I set foot in this strange place where I don't know anyone, and then I see the face of somebody who I've shared intimate moments with via our circle. And I see them smile, and I feel that I'm walking into another room of my own home.
With women, we often were raised to not trust one another or have doubts about each other. So really empowering each other. And I think with our circle, we have become pillars of one another and really embraced our feminine side.
And here's Naya's wisdom from EFTC Conference Dublin 2017.
If the women that are working in the TC movement in the world today can't be very brave about whatever it is, whether that be incest, whether that be abuse, whether that be, being in Bureau of Indian Affairs schools and all of the stuff that happens in the US in that regard. If we can't be brave and we can't push ourselves to be really brave, what happens to the women in Rohingya? What happens to the women immigrants? What happens to the women that are so marginalized that nobody's trying to figure out a real revolution of inclusion for them? And what happens to our field, in terms of other ways to apply community as method? We need community as method everywhere.
So thank you for joining us, and we leave you with some valuable reading. Thank you.